A big announcement, but a big mystery, too. The mayor's office and the Jaguars working out a deal on a stadium rebuild. The city council president broke that news, and he's with us today. We'll also explore what's happening with the county's school district as we hear about possible consolidation or closures of schools. And with mental health in focus this month, we're also asking how a local nonprofit measures whether it makes a difference against veteran suicide on This Week in Jacksonville.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The Stadium of the Future in Jacksonville, the home of the Jaguars. It's been a focus for months, and it will certainly be a focus at City Hall this coming Tuesday. We found out this week that City Hall has come to an agreement with the team about major renovations. The details, though, have been elusive. Mayor Donna Deegan, releasing a statement on the stadium deal, says, "We have reached an agreement on the framework of a deal. The negotiating team is currently putting the final details on paper, and we will release that information as soon as it is available." So joining us right now, City Council President Ron Salem, the person who kind of broke that news about the agreement that we heard from. President Salem, tell us what you know about the deal and then what's next in this process.
Well, let me just back up a second if I can, Kent. The mayor called me Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon, said we have an agreement. And I said, Mayor, I feel compelled to inform my colleagues that we have an agreement as president. She said, I understand. I said, we have a notice meeting tomorrow morning with the school board. I'd like to do it there. She agreed with that and helped me develop some language. So we use the term stadium agreement, not deal, not done, has been reported. She is working feverishly with all the law people and everybody to try to get an agreement to us Tuesday, if not Tuesday, soon thereafter.
So I think what I'm hearing here, and I'll just have you clarify for me. So not a surprise to her that you made this known on Wednesday, and it wasn't any kind of effort for you to upstage the mayor's office, anything like that?
Well, that's what's been, I've been accused of. She knew, her staff knew that I was going to do it. And as I said, help me craft the language that I used in that presser when I announced it. So they were completely aware.
Well, one of the key questions that maybe even City Council doesn't have the answer to yet, but even if we don't know yet the specific amount the city's going to contribute, where is the money going to come from? This is still up for debate as far as we know and have come.
That is correct. As a part of the agreement, the mayor and I both agree that the administration will present to the city council an option to pay for it, and we'll recommend an option. So that will be part of the discussion we will have as soon as we get the agreement.
So it sounds like, and I know Mike Weinstein, kind of chief negotiator for the mayor on this or whatever, but whatever the terms are, whatever the price tag is, then it'll be up to City Council, the mayor's office, saying, how are we going to find that money?
That is correct. Well, it's up to the mayor to propose a suggestion, and it's up to us to adopt that or some other suggestion.
So, President Salem, you announced a special committee that's going to be looking into Downtown Investment Authority. Tell me about the purpose, the ultimate goal of that committee.
Ken, I have been inundated with calls from real estate people, developers, expressing concern of the pace of development downtown. I've had council members express to me concern about that as well. I thought a special committee right now would be very timely, as Lori Boyer, who is the CEO, is going to be working for another year or two in that role. So if we ever were going to take a look at the DIA, determine if it's the best model, do we need to tweak it in some fashion, look at other cities, how they do their downtown development. Now was the time. And so I announced this special committee. And I have found these special committees, and I've had 3 of them this year, one on the jail, one on homelessness, and one on the Jacksonville Small Emerging Business Group. They've been very effective, and I have found them short-term, can look at an issue and make some recommendations, and Councilmember Carrico will chair that.
So, and you mentioned Lori Boyer, a former City Council president. Do you feel like DIA, I should say, has done the job as intended?
Well, it's not clear to me, Ken. I'm not a real estate person, nor am I a developer. I'm a healthcare guy, but I've heard enough from the community that there's a concern that either the model is not right or something is not quite right, that we should be moving faster in downtown. And hopefully this process will allow us to figure that out.
Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning, we're going to look at the pace of, and I didn't hear people saying, it's going too fast. One of the things that we do see happening right now, designs for Shipyards West, those are moving forward. People just this last week got a chance to view some renderings for the project's design team. That was Wednesday. Those are positive steps, or is that moving in a way that you're not interested in?
I think that's a positive step. But I think we all want to see the riverfront activated as soon as we possibly can, and identify the funding to do that.
Yeah. Gina Ford's the principal and co-founder of Agency Landscape and Planning, the lead design firm of the project. She said Jacksonville's going through a riverfront renaissance. That sounds good. Is that really what's happening? Or again, is it, we're hopeful?
It never moves as quick as you'd like it to move.
Right.
And I think that's one of the issues that we need to discuss and figure out what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong.
Yeah. You mentioned Councilman Kevin Carrico is going to be chairing that special committee. How will that process go, or how will they look into, as I heard it put, the efficacy of the Downtown Investment Authority?
Well, their first meeting is Monday. They've already, Kevin's already scheduled that. And his agenda is quite full. It's 2 hours. And they're bringing in somebody to talk about other cities. They're bringing in some developers to hear their thoughts and opinions. So I know Councilmember Carrico will do a very thorough job of looking at all the issues, and then, if necessary, bring some legislation to the council to modify, tweak, or in some way change the system.
Remind me, DIA is about 10 years old? Is it about a decade that we've had the Downtown Investment Authority?
It was started during Mayor Brown's administration. I think it's 12 years old.
Okay.
And as I said, the timing of this, I think, is very important. As we're changing leaders potentially in a year or two, now would be the time before we bring on a new leader to make sure that we have the model.
Yeah. All right, so I'm inviting Council President Ron Salem to stay with us. Please do. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about the ASUN Conference, investing in Duval County, among other things. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Jacksonville City Council President is our guest today, Dr. Ron Salem. What's your big takeaway from this announcement we heard about the Atlantic Sun Conference saying, hey, forget Atlanta, we're moving our headquarters to Jacksonville?
This is huge, Kent. There's not a conference that has their offices in the state of Florida. This will be the first. As you know, the Atlantic Sun is the home of JU and UNF.
Yeah.
It was a tremendous announcement. We had the atrium full of people. And I think it's exciting because I think it will help us bring ASUN events here, conference championships, and all sorts of things to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I heard Michael Corrigan talk about this, visit Jacksonville. And one of the things I thought was interesting was saying, hey, a lot of times to get a headquarters to move, you've got to do some real recruiting. He said he didn't think that was the case here. Is that accurate?
Well, I know this has been under discussion since John Delaney was mayor to bring the conference here. I was told
that's a minute ago. That's a little while ago.
So it takes some time.
Yeah.
They were pretty entrenched in Atlanta, and I think for them to leave Atlanta was difficult. But we're tremendously excited that they're here in Jacksonville. So
I've got a statement here from the conference here, and this is from the commissioner, Jeff Bacon, said, as the only NCAA Division I conference headquartered in Florida, we have a unique opportunity to capitalize on the value that our membership brings to one of the fastest growing states in the country. Thank you to the city of Jacksonville and to Visit Jax for their support. Thank you to our Atlantic Sun Conference presidents for their vision and support of this move. We look forward to the continued growth of the Atlantic Sun and our phenomenal institutions. And as you mentioned, Jacksonville University, University of North Florida, a couple other schools in Florida that are part of that conference. What do you see as maybe the larger impact on Duval County or Northeast Florida because of this move?
Well, that move, and I think the establishment of the Jacksonville Sports Foundation are the two key moves that we announced yesterday. The foundation is a not-for-profit located within Visit Jacksonville, and it will allow us, and I allocated $1.5 million out of the Tourist Development Council to the foundation to allow them to get started. And we are now attending NCAA events all over the country, trying to recruit those type of events to Jacksonville, to our arena, from everything from men and women's basketball to lacrosse to track and field, whatever it is, good, clean sporting events to Jacksonville.
Why is that a priority for you? Why do you see that as valuable?
I was on the Sports and Entertainment Board for 14 years and chaired it 4 times. I'm a big sports advocate, and I think bringing sports here is you bring tourists in, they spend their money, and they go home. And we have great sporting events. As you might remember, we had the NCAA basketball tournament here 3 times, and we lost it because we didn't cultivate it. And the key is, and we are trying to bring it back again. And if we can get it back again, I'm sure we'll cultivate it in a way to keep it here every 3 or 4 years forever.
And one of those things, back to our previous segment, maybe that changes the desire of the NCAA in this case, or other sporting events to be here if that sports, that arena district, the riverfront is developed a little bit more.
No question. An active downtown will help us attract those types of events. And I know the mayor is very supportive of that. Her and I both led that press conference, and she served with me back on the old Jacksonville Sports Commission where I first met her approximately 20 years ago. So it was like coming home again.
How about that? Changing topic just a little bit, Dr. Salem, the Jacksonville City Council joining with the Duval County School Board, a joint meeting this past week. And really, it seemed like it was to be able to allow council members to hear some of the topics, the issues that are going on within the school system right now. Search for a new superintendent, proposal to maybe close dozens of schools, update into that investigation on how the district handles allegations of teacher misconduct, and kind of points at what happened at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. Why was this important to you?
Well, I said in my installation speech a year ago that I would have 4 of these, and this was the 4th one. So it was important to me to meet that commitment, and I thought the dialogue was extremely helpful. We got into some of the school closings, and the council members get as many calls and questions as the school board people. So they had a chance with the superintendent there to discuss these things. We discussed the potential new superintendent as well, and I think the dialogue between the school board and the city council was extremely helpful.
Yeah, a chance to ask questions
Absolutely.
About what's going on there. Maybe wrap this up in the last minute we have for our segment or what have you. National Health Awareness Month, the city of Jacksonville has an initiative there. Your background professionally in medicine, this has got to be something you're enthused about.
Yeah, very enthused about it. We held a presser. The mayor is very enthused about mental health as well. She has some initiatives. This 988 number we're really promoting. If you have a mental health emergency, you can call. I have been very engaged in our mental health offender program, or MHOP, and getting inmates diverted from the jail into programs so they don't cycle back to the jail. So we have some really good things going on from a mental health standpoint here in Jacksonville. Yeah, Mental Health Matters Jax is the initiative that we talked about, I believe, last week here on the show as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time, and we talked about a lot of topics. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you having me. Thank you, sir. All right. So stay with us. And up next, in National Mental Health Awareness Month, one group is taking a stand against veteran suicide. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
May is both Mental Health Awareness Month and Military Appreciation Month. This week, there's a focus on a particular vulnerable subpopulation to suicide. We're talking about veterans here. And we're looking at some new data on Northeast Florida and Florida veteran suicide. So joining us right now, our final segment today, Nick Howland, Executive Director of the Fire Watch, which is Florida's fight to end veteran suicide. Navy veteran, this is a cool component. And Stucker Chachitas is a Vice President of Client Services for NLP Logics. This is a data analytics analytics firm, also Navy veteran, and we were just going, wow, graduate of the Naval Academy. So a couple of sailors here with me, and a really important topic. So Nick, you've been with us before over the years as we've talked about the Fire Watch.
Right.
Just help explain what the Fire Watch does and maybe what this latest data shows.
Sure, Kent, thanks for having us. The Fire Watch, as you know, is Florida's fight to end veteran suicide. We are trying to end veteran suicide by preventing veteran suicide.
Yeah.
And our primary program, inspired by CPR, is something we call the Watchstander program. We're training community members to recognize the signs of crisis and to know how to refer veterans who need help. And Kent, it's paying off. You alluded to the latest data available. We just received 2022 data, the latest data available, and we are seeing a drop in veteran suicides of 27% in Northeast Florida compared to 2019. What's more, it gets even better. 3 consecutive years, 25% below that 2019 level. Our Watchstanders out there in the community are doing their job. They're getting veterans to help.
You know, and that was one of the things that I think you probably heard early on was, okay, we've got this idea, we're gonna have Watchstanders, they're trained. Is this really going to work?
Yeah.
And how are we gonna know? So that's where we bring in Tucker. So where did the data come from? How did you collect this to bring some conclusions about what the trends are?
Yeah, great question. So we get the data directly from the Florida Department of Health, and they collect it from local coroners' offices looking at the death certificates where the staff there flag whether or not it's a veteran. So long story short, we're getting primary source data at a very granular level that lets us do the localization to help the Fire Watch know where to focus their efforts.
NLP Logix, veteran-owned company, yes. Local. Obviously, there was probably some synergy there. Yep. How'd the relationship start? How did you guys get connected on this topic?
I got introduced to Ted Willich just from a friend, and we started having the discussion. He put me together with his team, and his team, led by Tucker and also program manager Katie Bakewell, have been remarkable in helping us find that data. That data didn't exist. The only data that had been available was data from the VA that comes out generally 2 years in arrears and only gives a snapshot of the state. Our data collected by NLP Logix from the Florida Department of Health allows us to focus not only across Florida, but by county and by zip code. And within zip codes and counties, we can sort by age, gender, race, and means of death, which is remarkable because it allows us to focus where we grow our Watchstander network.
So, Nick, tell me a little bit more what the trend in Northeast Florida among veteran suicides. How's that compare to the trends we see elsewhere?
Yeah, great question. 27% down in Northeast Florida over that period, 1% down across the rest of the state. So Northeast Florida is outperforming the rest of Florida in veteran suicides. And if you compare Northeast Florida reductions of 27% to Northeast Florida civilians, over that same period, civilian suicide is up 9%. So we're driving the number down in Northeast Florida. And interestingly, in 2021, the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs asked us to expand to the Tampa area and the Palm Beach area, 2 other high-risk parts of the state. Where we have built our network over the last several years, we are down 16% in veteran suicides. Where we haven't, across the rest of the state, it's up 8%.
Well, and so is that luck? Is it just, are there other factors? How do you know that what Watchstanders are doing, what the Fire Watch is doing, makes a difference? And I would imagine there's some data involved in this as well, trying to evaluate it.
Yeah, I think and NLP helps us there because basically the community is coming together to build a support network for veterans. And our Watchstanders just get veterans to the help they need. The direct services provided by the VA, provided by wonderful organizations like the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic, Operation New Uniform, Wounded Warrior Project, Canines for Warriors, are delivering the services that keep veterans safe. So it really is a collaborative community effort.
Yeah, you just listed a number of groups there that are
wonderful
pretty passionate about it. Is this personal for you too? That Navy background and the effort here that Fire Watch is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I was so happy to learn that we were already involved when I started with NLP Logix, so it's a proud relationship for me to support. And they're doing great work, and it's great that we can help validate the progress they've made and help the Fire Watch know where to focus next by looking at that granular data of what's the next problem area.
Tucker, give me your perspective on this. Why is it important to track data like this? And you know, we've heard a number when we've talked about veteran suicide over the last several years. We've heard that number that there's 22 a day veterans dying by suicide. But that data doesn't necessarily track with what you're talking about right now on trying to see that number reduced.
Right, great question. And that number comes from the VA looking at the entire country, and that's important to track, absolutely. As I mentioned, we're going to the primary source here in Florida, the Department of Health, and as Nick mentioned, we get it at a much more granular level. We also get it faster, many months sooner than the VA puts out its annual numbers, so we can get more detail sooner to more closely tie what's really happening on the ground to the efforts that the Fire Watch is putting in.
So, Nick, final minute that we get to talk about this, but you just mentioned, hey, expanded to some area. That wasn't initially the thrust here for Firewatch. It was a 5-county area here in Northeast Florida.
Exactly. Yeah, and Florida Department of Veteran Affairs saw the need because when we started collecting this data, we could see where the other hotspots were in the state. And hopefully one day we can start expanding out to Escambia County and the Space Coast because we see those developing hotspot areas. They're a big concern for us. But what we do know is we're winning the fight, and yet the fight is not over. Anyone can join, anyone can take the training, anyone can become a watchstander. It's free, it's available to anybody. It's online at thefirewatch.org. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, and for me, when we got involved here, it was like, you can be a civilian and make a big difference here. You don't have to be a veteran or active in the military.
Exactly.
Tucker Stachitas and Nick Howland, thank you so much. Appreciate your efforts, and let's see that number just get to zero at some point in the
Absolutely.
future.
Kent, thanks for having us.
Right. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17. And then you'll find us online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. Next time, Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan will be here just days after the city's deal with the Jaguars is revealed to City Council. Plus, City Council member Tyrona Clark Murray will be with us too. Don't forget to check out this week's podcast of This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. It looks at the beach's habitat for humanity and the nonprofit's connection to a growing economy in our area. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. and you're going to find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville, or wherever you find your podcasts like Apple, Spotify, and Google.
Every day, more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.